Okay, everybody, welcome to chapter 13 of the Bhagavad-gītā, Nature, the Enjoyer, and Consciousness. If you're not familiar with this chapter, you will be after we finish with this conversation tonight. This is a very, very important chapter in the Bhagavad-gītā because Krishna identifies further the qualities that the devotee manifest that actually are required for liberation. So Krishna discusses that. So I think we're going to find a lot of great things in this chapter. And as usual, before we start, we have a little kirtan, just a little bit. And tonight, I think we'll start out, and I might do a little piece of a song that I wrote for you guys. Just to kind of set this up a little bit, we're going to do Om Jnana Timarandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militanjana Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. We'll chant that a couple of times. And then I'm going to sing a little song. And this song actually is called Wash Over Me. And Wash Over Me, we're asking Krishna to drench us in his mercy, to wash us clean, literally. If you look at the Bhakti tradition is a tradition of musicians and poets and devotees of the Lord who are singing and dancing and feasting on Krishna Prasadam. And I call it the eternal festival because it's a festival without end. It had no beginning and it will have no end. So all we want to do is jump back into that festival. And we want to do it together. It's called Sankirtan. Sankirtan means congregational singing and chanting God's holy names. So we're so glad that everybody's here tonight, and we are going to go ahead and get started. So if you can hear this, sing with me if you know any of this, the mantra, and then we'll do some Hare Krishna. And you might want to mute. Om Jnana Timarandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militandena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Jnana Timarandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militandena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Jnana Timarandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militandena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Jnana Timarandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militandena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. It's time to put away childish things. It's time to find a brand new song to sing. It's time to feel the love that you bring. Wash over me. Let your rain of grace pour down on me. Drench me in your mercy causelessly. One drop of bliss, let your ecstasy wash over me. Just by calling out your sweet name, my fears are gone, my heart now has changed. Forgetting you, my soul has felt such shame. Wash over me. Don't ever let me leave you again. Should fear and darkness start to begin, I'll call your name and peace will soon then wash over me. And I'll see you everywhere and every day. So close you'll never be that far away. Your name forever on my lips I pray. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Rama, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Rama, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora, Haribo, Jaya Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora, Haribo, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Om Jnana Timarandasya Yananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militandina Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. Yay, Haribo. So, all right.
We had 4 people join us. We've got Frank. Frank is here.
Hey, Frank.
Drew's here.
Drew.
Stella.
Stella.
And Susan.
Susan. Wow.
Back from the Bahamas.
This is the eternal festival and the party's on, guys. So glad everyone could make it. And then also, anybody who would like to catch up on these classes can do so simply by going to the Bhakti Yoga Tennessee site on YouTube, and you can go back and listen to the entire archive if you'd like to. And if you receive it also on your Facebook or wherever else you get it, please repost. We're trying to spread this holy name around a little bit. And so, okay, so this chapter, We'll start out by saying Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 All right. Very, very good. So I'll start out reading, and then you guys can chime in whenever you'd like. If there's any questions, any points that you want to go over, or if you want to stop somewhere and just analyze it together, or if you have an illumination or whatever you would like to share, please do that. That's what this call is all about. So, chapter 13, Nature, the Enjoyer, and Consciousness. Text 1 and 2. Arjuna said, "O my dear Krishna, I wish to know about Prakriti, nature, Purusha, the enjoyer, and the field and the knower of the field, and of knowledge and the objects of knowledge." The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "This body, O son of Kunti, is called the field, and one who knows this body is called the knower of the field. O scion of Bharat, you should understand that I'm also the knower in all bodies, and to understand this body and its knower is called knowledge. That is my opinion. Now please hear my brief description of this field of activity and how it is constituted and what its changes are, whence it is produced, who is the knower of the field of activities is, and what his influences are." Now, that knowledge of the field of activities and the knower of activities is described by various sages in various Vedic writings. It is especially presented in Vedanta Sutra with all reasoning as to cause and effect. So, if somebody would like to pick up here, anybody care to read? Go ahead, Susan. Text 6 and 7.
Thank you. The 5 great elements, false ego, intelligence, the unmanifested, the 10 senses, the mind, the 5 sense objects, desire, hatred, happiness, distress, they aggregate the life symptoms and convictions. All these are considered, in summary, to be the field of activities and its interactions. Humility, pridelessness, nonviolence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, and self-control, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of birth, death, old age, and disease, non-attachment to children, wife, home, and the rest, and even-mindedness amidst pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to me, resorting to solitary places, detachment from the general mass of people, accepting the importance of self-realization, and philosophical search for the absolute truth. All these I thus declare to be knowledge, and what is contrary to these is ignorance.
That's fabulous. Wow. We're going to come back to that one in a minute, I promise. Okay, anybody else want to read a couple? Let's pass it around, y'all. Thank you, Susan.
I can jump in.
Go for it.
All right, 13, correct?
Right.
All right. I shall now explain the knowable, knowing which you will taste the eternal. Brahman, the spirit, beginningless and subordinate to me, lies beyond the cause and effect of this material world. Everywhere are his hands and legs, his eyes, heads and faces, and he has ears everywhere. In this way, the supersoul exists, pervading everything. The supersoul is the original source of all senses, yet he is without senses. He is unattached, although he is the maintainer of all living beings. He transcends the modes of nature, and at the same time, he is the master of all the modes of material nature. The supreme truth exists outside and inside of all living beings, the moving and the non-moving, because he is subtle. He is beyond the power of the material senses to see or to know. Although far, far away, he is also near to all. Although the super soul appears to be divided among all beings, he is never divided. He is situated as one. Although he is the maintainer of every living entity, it is to be understood that he devours and develops all. Good.
Yeah, you can keep reading if you like. We got 35 verses here, so we want to.
We got to roll. All right. All right. He is the source of light in all luminous objects. He is beyond the darkness of matter and is unmanifested. He is knowledge. He is the object of knowledge, and he is the goal of knowledge. He is situated in everyone's heart. Thus, the field of activities, the body, knowledge, and the knowledgeable have been summarily described by me. Only my devotees can understand this thoroughly and thus attain to my nature. Material nature and the living entity should be understood to be beginningless. Their transformations and the modes of matter are products of material nature.
Beautiful.
Nature is said to be the cause of all material causes and effects, whereas the living entity is the cause of the various sufferings and enjoyments of this world.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Thank you. That was excellent.
I can read.
Please. Thank you.
The living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with the material nature. Thus he meets with good and evil among various species. Yet in this body there is another, a transcendental enjoyer, who is the Lord, the supreme proprietor, who exists as the overseer and permitter, and who is known as the super soul. One who understands this philosophy concerning material nature, the living entity, and the interaction of the modes of nature is sure to obtain liberation. He will not take birth here again, regardless of his present position. Some perceive the supersoul within themselves through meditation, others through the cultivation of knowledge, and still others through working with fruit of desires. Again, there are those who, although not conversant in spiritual knowledge, begin to worship the Supreme Person upon hearing about him from others. Because of their tendency to hear from authorities, they also transcend the path of birth and death.
Excellent. Yeah, we've got a few more to go. We probably have another 8 verses. So if anybody else would like to jump in, please do that. You did a great job. Thank you for that. Very nice. All right. Jai Krishna, you got your Gita with you? I don't know if he can hear us.
No, I don't have my glasses with me.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. Bhavananda, you want to grab a piece of this? Frank's on also, if Frank wants a little bit of this.
Frank is listening. He's
Okay.
doing
All
some
right,
chores
Drew?
and
How
listening
about
at the
Drew
same
then?
time. Me? Okay. O chief of the Bharatas, I know that whatever you see in existence, both the moving and the non-moving, is only a combination of the field of activities and the knower of the field. One who sees the super soul accompanying the individual soul in all bodies, and who understands that neither the soul nor the super soul within the destructible body is ever destroyed, actually sees. One who sees the super soul equally present everywhere, in every living being, does not degrade himself by his mind. Thus he approaches the transcendental destination. One who can see that all activity by the body, which is created of material nature, and sees that the self does nothing, actually sees. When a sensible man ceases to see different identities due to different material bodies, and he sees how beings are expanded everywhere, he attains to the Brahman conception. Those within the vision of eternity can see that the imperishable soul is transcendental, eternal, and beyond nature. Despite the contact with the material body, O Arjuna, the soul needs
What happened?
She just got kicked out.
33
I don't know how that happened.
Our internet connection's real bad right now.
Okay.
33, the sky, due to its subtle nature, does not mix with anything, although it is all pervading. Similarly, the soul situated in Brahman vision does not mix with the body, though though situated in that body. The son of Rata, as the sun alone illuminates all of this universe, so does the living entity, one within the body, illuminate the entire body by consciousness. Those who see with eyes of knowledge the difference between the body and the knower of the body, and can also understand the process of liberation from bondage in material nature, attain the supreme goal.
Very good. Yeah, thank you very much, everybody, for reading. I know Bhavananda and Raghavati are having some problems with their internet tonight. So in the last verse, and we're going to go back through some of these verses, and if anybody has any comments or questions or just points they want to make, please chime in at any time. This is actually a discussion, so you're welcome to speak up. But what Krishna is saying here in text 35 is those who see with the eyes of knowledge. So we see in the beginning, Arjuna said, when he talked about the universal form, he said, if you think I'm capable to see your form, please show me that form, that universal form of how you enter into the material universes and so forth. And Krishna says, with your current eyes, you cannot see, so I give you divine eyes. So the study of the Vedanta gives us divine eyes. Tadvidi prani pratena pariprashanena sedya upadekshanti te ganinas tatvidarshana. Also the spiritual master gives us transcendental vision. The spiritual master is actually considered to be a window to the spiritual world. It's known as the transcendental via medium. So he becomes a conduit. And so we connect to that conduit and we become spiritualized. So even a moment's association with a pure devotee of the Lord can transform one's trajectory from a series of repeated births and deaths and misery in the material world to liberation. So when the spiritual master comes, everyone should avail themselves of that information, that knowledge. And so Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, our guru, was so kind 50 years ago. He was in Vrindavan, India, and he was retired from family life, business life. He'd completely become an ascetic. He was a Swami, a sannyasi, one who had renounced the material world. And did not seek fame, profit, adoration, distinction, had no interest in sense gratification in the material world, was over it, and was on his way back home, back to Godhead. But he felt so compassionate for you and for me that he left paradise. He left paradise, literally, Vrindavan. At that time, you can only imagine, if you've been there recently, it's grown quite a bit. But back at that time, it was like it was for thousands of years. And so Prabhupada left that in a great difficulty, in repeated heart attacks and suffering. Prabhupada came to the Western world to disseminate this eternal, transcendental information so that we might become liberated from this cycle of birth and death and go back home, back to Godhead in our original Swarup city, in our original relationship with God, and relish transcendental ecstasy eternally. So when we go, Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya, Gyanan means we were born in ignorance. We had no idea what the heck was going on. We didn't know. All we knew was what our nation told us, our mother, father, teachers, what our society taught us, like that. What our scientists taught us, all of it's imperfect knowledge. All of it. And all of it Krishna considers to be ignorance. If we go back to the verses that Prabhupada mentioned here, which are back on, 9 through 12, I believe it was. Let me see if I can find it for you here real quick. Okay, yeah, 8 through 12. These are the qualifications of a devotee. These are the characteristics that are going to manifest in the life of a person who is following the guru, following the spiritual master on the path of bhakti yoga. Bhakti, loving union with God. Just like we said before, if you take a cold iron and you put it in a hot fire, it's no longer iron, it acts just like fire. So you may be made of 24 material elements. Primarily earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego, and then the soul above. But the soul has nothing to do with these 24 elements. Nothing. Just like the air may fill a container, but it doesn't actually become part of the container. See what I'm saying? So your soul may have entered into this material world, in this material body, but it has nothing to do with the material body. Prabhupada says that in the purport of this verse. So the first qualification is humility. Now, for a person who's filled in false ego and pride, there is no humility, right? So false ego, we find that a person becomes me, mine, my extended kingdom. I am the Lord of all that I survey. I am perfect. I am happy. I am complete. These are all my objects of sense gratification, and I'll enjoy them all in due course of time. So that's what happens in the false ego. So humility does not manifest. Pridelessness does not manifest for a person who is caught up in false ego. False ego means pride, means false pride. It means identifying with a lie, identifying with something that is not actually you. So Krishna says in 2:20 in the Bhagavad-gītā, Najayate mriyate vakadachin, nayam bhutva bhavitavana bhuya, ajo nitya shashvato yang prano, nahanyate hanyamane sarire. And what it means is basically for the soul there was never birth. There will never be death. Right? For the body there's always birth. And for whatever's taken its birth, death is certain, right? We're just on the path to death now. From the time you're born, your life breaths are being used up until they expired, and then you transfer the subtle body and the soul to the womb of the next mother through the father. So if we're going to be able to put up with this material world, which is filled with all types of pain and suffering, just like we mentioned in the last class, Krishna said, Brahma bhuvanalaka lokamang karma bandhana tadartam karma kontaya mukta sangha samachara. So even if you go to Brahma Loka, where the creator, the empowered creator of this universe lives, the highest planet in heaven, all are places of misery, wherein repeated birth and death take place. So there's no shelter in the material world for the soul. The soul is constantly being evicted from one body to the next. It's just like you move in a nice apartment, you build it up, you build a house, you fix it up, you put all the pictures on the wall, everything is just like you like it, and then the doggone thing burns down. Right? So we see so many people who are preparing themselves to enjoy the three modes of material nature and the material senses. And then all of a sudden, what? Cancer? Or a car accident? Or a tornado? A hurricane, a flood? Disease of any description you can only imagine? All of these things affect our lives, and we're disappointed. We've been disappointed for literally trillions of births in the material world. The material world is also eternal energy. Prakriti is eternal. But it manifests and unmanifested. Krishna says he develops and devours all as the super soul. So yes, we may develop for a little while. There'll be some dwindling, maybe some offspring, and then gradually disease, old age, and death. That is not the recipe for a good time. It's not the recipe for a good time. It is the recipe for repeated birth and death. So therefore, Krishna says, you have to have a perception of the evil of birth and death, old age and disease. Krishna calls it evil. Now, if somebody says, I'll give you $10 million, but I got to kill you, right? Would you take the $10 million? What would you do with it? What good is $10 million if you're dead and can't spend it, right? So in the same way, whatever we think we have, whatever we think we own, our family, our children, our life, all of these things that we depend upon, that we're codependent upon, these things actually will disappoint us in due course of time. That's the problem. What's the solution? The solution is approaching a bona fide spiritual master. That's the solution. And becoming clean, not only in your heart and soul, not only in your body, but in your heart and soul and your mind. Becoming cleansed. Becoming steady. Developing self-control. Without self-control, there's no peace. There's no peace. You know, I used to have a friend who was a cigarette smoker, and it didn't matter if it was 10 feet of snow outside. This is back when I was a musician traveling on the road. He would get up and trudge through the snow. He would literally walk a mile in 10 feet of snow for a camel. Okay? You might remember that commercial. That's how bad people want that. So he thought that would bring him happiness, and he was literally willing to do whatever was required to be able to get that. So self-control is very, very important. By controlling yourself, one can become peaceful. By letting the fire die down to smolder. This is what Krishna has recommended throughout the Shastra over and over and over again. And he says, Indriyanam hicharatam yanmano muvidyate tadasya harati pragyam vayum navam ivambasi. As a boat on the water is swept away by a strong wind, even one of the senses on which the mind focuses can carry away the mind of a person or of intelligence who is attempting to control these senses. So therefore, it is these senses are very, very powerful. And we can become bewildered by these senses. We can become obsessed. We can become enamored, even to the point of criminal behavior. You know, like we see in the news every single night here, that somebody they were addicted to some type of substance, drugs or whatever it was, so they needed a fix, and they went and robbed or killed a nice innocent family or who knows, to get that temporary satisfaction. That's how crazy it can get. That's how crazy it can get. So what we have to do is follow a process. That process is known as sadhana bhakti. And sadhana bhakti will help you renounce these objects of sense gratification simply by dedicating all of your senses. Rishikesh means the master of the senses. Dedicating everything you do, everything you offer, everything you eat, everything you give away. Everything you do as an offering to Krishna, and you become Krishna conscious. And Krishna says, whatever state you pass from this body in, that state you shall attain without fail. So if you're remembering Krishna at the time of death, then you will attain to the Lord. So the problem is prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha ahankara. That means that these are problems, they're stumbling blocks on the path of spiritual life. The bewildered soul, under the influence of all these three modes of material nature, passion, ignorance, even goodness, these things are actually being carried out by nature and not by us. So basically what we're doing is desiring. Man proposes, God disposes. We've always heard that. So we're simply desiring. So the soul is simply desiring. And then all these 24 elements manifest around the soul in various species of life, in which you either suffer or enjoy repeatedly. Now, one time you may have a different kind of mother, like an animal mother, an aquatic mother. You may have a demigod mother or father. You see what I'm saying? And you're just going back and forth, and you're looking for the perfect love. But you don't find it, not in the material world. So the song that I sang to you earlier, I'm going to read you a couple of the words about this, because this is the condition that we come to when we realize our predicament in the material world. We realize that we've left God, that we've come here to a dark place of death to hide from God so that we can attempt to enjoy separately from the Lord. But if you cut the hand from the body, the hand will not enjoy. It will simply rot. And neither the body cannot enjoy the hand either, because it's disconnected. So this song talks about that. It says that all in love is fair, right? It's been said that all in love is fair. But I was blind. I was in need of truth. So I set out on a road apart from you, apart from God. I left God. I searched for love in vain on my own. But without you, God, without you, Lord, I ended up all alone, basically. I ended up in a cold, dark world, even without a song to sing. See what I mean? No song to sing, no Hare Krishna Mahamantra. I've left all that behind. So if truly all in love is fair, forgive me, Lord, I've been so blind. Every false high road I took, it just took me down. And suffering for years, lost and alone, I realize how I've been so wrong, because you are the truest love of all. You are the one true home. It's time for coming home. No longer on my own. To you I will belong, and your name will be my only song. Surrendering my heart, protected and a part of your great harmony, like a leaf is to a tree. Let drops of grace wash over me. So that's what we're begging the Lord. Let your grace, let your rain of grace pour all over me. Drench me in your mercy, causelessly. So this is our prayer. And when we become a little bit fixed up in Krishna consciousness, we feel these emotions of redemption. We want redemption. We feel bad about the things that we've done in the past, and we want to make it up to the Lord. We want to give ourselves in full surrender to the Lord now that we understand who the Lord is, right? So to do that, Krishna says here that many of us look to a solitary place to live because by doing that, we can have a peaceful life of meditation. Prabhupada said one time, all this big factory and technical civilization that we have now is simply, it's a vexation to the spirit, to the soul. You know, the other day I had to wait for somebody and it was on a busy highway. I almost went deaf from all the trucks going by and people, they're having accidents over here. I mean, it was awful. I mean, so much stuff going and coming at breakneck speeds, running up and down the road on rubber balls. What the heck is that all about? And where are these people going in such a hurry? Where do you think they're going? Well, I can promise you they're going to find better eating, better sleeping, better mating, and better defending. It's pretty much it. Or they're looking for profit, fame, adoration, and distinction. So that's what's happening in the material world. If you look all around, these 24 elements have surrounded us. This Prakriti has surrounded the field is the body, is the world that we live in. The knower of the field is this soul, the Jivatma. And above the Jivatma is the Paramatma, or God. Kashiro Dakshayi Vishnu. That's in every molecule of every atom. If you look, souls are expanded everywhere in all directions. Life is everywhere. You're walking on it. You step out the door and you're walking on life. It's everywhere. You're breathing life. You're drinking life. You're eating life. You're filling this cadaver called the material body with life. The soul, right? That's the battery in the flashlight. The light comes on. And the super soul is right next to each individual soul. It never leaves. It's not divided, though. The super soul is one, although in many places it is very far, but the super soul is also very, very near. As a matter of fact, so near, it's right here in your heart. So when I see you, I offer Namaste, Jai Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Because I realize that you're there with God. You're right there with the Lord. So Krishna says that we have to become even-minded, even in the mid unpleasant or pleasant events. Krishna is longing for constant, unalloyed love and devotion from you. Okay? The relationship, somehow or another, we've turned our back on the Lord. We've come here to a dark world. Most of us never even knew what was going on until we got the spiritual master. The spiritual master illuminated us and gave us this information. And the information is so important that Krishna explains here that, okay, here it is. The living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of material nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus he meets with good and evil among various species of life. You go in all of these 8,400,000 species of life that the Vedas talk about. And Krishna's right there with you as the overseer, the proprietor. He's the permitter. He's allowing your free will to do its thing. And what are you doing? You're bringing about pain and suffering or happiness and joy for yourself by your actions. That's what you're doing. And you keep doing that thinking there'll be a solution along the way. But the only solution is this constant, unalloyed, loving devotion to the Lord. And then, by the way, all of those characteristics, all of those qualities will manifest in your heart. And you'll become a kind, loving friend to all living entities. One day, Prabhupada was sitting in his room, and he called his servant in, and he said, he was looking at the floor. I don't know if I told you the story or not, but he's looking at the floor. And on the floor is a small insect. And so he asked his disciple, maybe you could take this insect outside. It looks hungry. Could you move it outside where it could get some food? So this is the mindset of a devotee. The devotee sees with equal vision all these living entities. He doesn't see the bodies. He sees 24 elements conglomerated, either as a woman, as a man, as a child, as an animal, as an insect, as an aquatic, understanding demigod, all that. He sees all of that with an equal vision. He realizes this is the knower of the field and the field itself and the interaction of the three modes of material nature. Bada bing, bada boom. It's over. That's it. That's it. That's what you get. And then you lose it all at the time of death. So that's why we have to kind of get over what Prabhupada was saying about the family and the children and this and that. Many times what happens, we get enamored in the material world and we think this is the solution. But all of these souls are expanding from Krishna. All this Prakriti has expanded from Krishna. Therefore, it all belongs to him. And he says that in the Bhagavad-gītā. He says, once that you know the truth, you'll see that everything is in me and is mine. It's mine. You do not belong to yourself. You belong to Krishna. You don't own anything. We're paupers. Everything we have, we desire, Krishna gives. Man proposes, God disposes. Krishna says in Bhagavad-gītā, all of them, as they surrender to me, I reward accordingly. So that's our situation. And our situation also is that as long as we're embodied, we're going to feel attraction. We're going to feel repulsion of sense objects. One must learn to tolerate these things, really, without becoming disturbed, okay, if we're going to be on the path of self-realization. So basically, Krishna says here, and this, okay, so there's so many promises in the Shastra that Krishna makes. If you read the Ekadasi Vratas, I don't know how many of you know what is Ekadasi, for an example. A few of us know. Ekadasi is a fast day on the 11th day before and after, I guess, the full moon. So on those days, we fast from grains and beans. And we do that to absolve ourselves literally of all the karmic reactions and sins that we've created. So Krishna says if you do that, then you will become liberated. You will be free of your sinful past, and you'll actually have some meritorious behavior that you can advance you on your path, on your spiritual path. So this is another promise in text 24 of this chapter, which I love. This is an incredible promise that the Lord is making you for being here tonight, for trying to understand what is the soul, what is nature, and what is the super soul. That's what this whole chapter is about, okay? You, the super soul, and this nature of 24 elements. That's what this chapter is about. And Krishna says, one who understands this philosophy concerning material nature, the living entity in the interaction of the modes of nature, is sure to attain liberation. And what did you want? Liberation. Why? Repeated birth, death, old age, disease, no fun. It's not a party. You want to go to the eternal festival in the spiritual sky, right? That's the plan. So he says he will not take birth here again, regardless of your present position. Wow. Wow. Stop and think about that one for a few years. Right? And if you read the purport of this particular verse, okay, it says, one, a clear understanding of the material nature, the super soul, and the individual soul and their interrelation makes one eligible to become liberated and turn to the spiritual atmosphere without being forced to return to this material nature again. This is the result of knowledge. This is the result of knowledge. So Jnana Yoga actually does lead one to liberation. Meditation, Krishna says, is good, right? Jnana, knowledge, is good. Or karma yoga, work, giving up the fruit of the action, is good. Because all of these things lead us to bhakti yoga, or love of God. And when we develop love of God, there's no question that we'll be transferred to the Lord at the time of our leaving this body. But there are some people who don't even need to worry about it. They just hear from the authority, and they have a tendency to hear from others. And because of that, and they listen to the authority, they also transcend the path of birth and death. So we are looking for millions and millions and how about billions? How about billions? We're looking for billions of people who will listen to the higher authority of the Bhagavad-gītā as it is handed down through the Sampradaya and through these individual disciples who would recite this information according to their realization. That's what we're looking for. And there's a great need for this information to be disseminated. And we're always looking for new and better ways to disseminate it, right? So if there's anything you got, any talent that you have in helping us promote this philosophy, this understanding, this absolute truth, which is liberating to the soul, if there's any of you that have talents and you want to contribute your time or your energy, your money, whatever you want to do, we will guarantee you that we will use it to introduce the absolute truth to as many souls, wayward souls in this material world as possible. That's our actual mission, is that we want to do that, is get this information out. Prabhupada's charged us with that. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has charged us in this Sankirtan movement to get this information out. So that's it. Because whatever you see in the material world, all it is the interaction of the individual soul, right, with the three modes of material nature, with this prakriti, the combination of the field of activities and the knower of the field. That's what you're getting here, and that's it. It's all permanent but temporary. It's dissolved and manifest, dissolved and manifest, dissolved and manifest over and over and over again. That's not satisfying to the immortal soul. So that's why we want to see everyone equally present. We see the super soul equally present everywhere in every living being. And we will not degrade ourselves by the mind, but instead we will give good instruction to the mind as it is handed down in the Vedic text, and we'll follow that instruction all the way, that path, that map, that long winding road, right, that leads us home to Krishna's door. That's the door we want. That's where we want to go. That's what we're looking for. So whatever you see in front of you is actually being carried out by the knower of the field, the super soul, the three modes of nature, and these 24 elements. That's what you're seeing in front of you. And yourself or your soul actually does nothing at all. Nothing. It doesn't do, this is all being taken place by these 24 elements and the three modes of material nature, the Atma, the super soul, here in the material world. Okay? So you do nothing at all. You have nothing to do with this stuff. So when a sensible person ceases to see different identities due to different material bodies and sees that how the beings are expanded everywhere, that is called Brahman conception. Brahman conception. And that is a realization of eternality, actually. That's a realization that we are not these bodies, right? That we're the eternal spiritual soul. It's the light of God's body, okay? But just your soul, just like the sky doesn't mix with anything, although it's all pervading. A person in Brahman vision does not mix with the body, though situated in that body. Now that is a meditation I'd like to leave you with until we meet again, because the next chapter is the three modes of material nature. So we're definitely going to get off into some of passion, ignorance, and goodness. And then we're going to talk about Sudasattva, pure goodness. We're going to discuss that as well. So those who see with eyes of knowledge, they know the difference between the body and the knower of the body. And they can also understand the process of liberation from bondage in material nature. Those are the persons who attain to the supreme goal. So that's who we want to be. We want to be those persons who identify correctly with the spiritual spark and not this external contraption, this Varata Rupa. It's been created for us to come here and try our best to become Krishna. You're already part and parcel of Krishna, and that's your true nature, and that will make you happy. You just got to get reconnected to the body of the Lord, and then you'll feel that Bhakti Shakti run through your veins. Become a spiritual revolutionary, everybody. All right? So I've been doing all the talking. Is there any other questions? Because we're at the end of our meeting for the night.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. It's Jai Krishna.
Got
Can you hear me? Because I got a weak signal here on the island tonight.
No, we hear you perfect.
Okay. First of all, thank you for your class. I've been hearing classes for almost 50 years, and so many are just doom and gloom and brimming fire and brimstone. I like the way you approach the class, and they're entertaining, so I enjoy it very much.
Thank
So,
you.
a question about the Paramatma. So the Paramatma, the super soul, is the observer, but has no control over past, present, or future, or my material body. And the reason I ask that is if the super soul is the observer, and here goes the question, why does it allow me or that soul to do some heinous things? Like a rape or a murder or kill, and he sees it, it's the observer, but allows it to happen. So it does not control the material body, or strictly is the observer.
Okay, so that's an excellent question. And, everybody asks that, a lot of people ask similar questions like, why do bad things happen to good people, But in the same way, there is no love without free will. So the Lord allowed you, he's the permitter, right? We just read that he's the permitter, he's the observer, right? And he's the fulfiller of all your desires since time immemorial. Whatever you see is created by God. So the point is that if God did not allow you to have free will, you would not have the free will to surrender your heart and soul again to God and develop that relationship of love out of free will. So God doesn't want automatons or robots. He's not looking for somebody he can just program to do his bidding. He's looking for genuine, heartfelt, pure, unalloyed, loving devotion, and he wants to feel it and taste it as a result of your efforts. And so if he took away your free will and just said, now the voice of conscience does warn us, right? Jai Krishna, the voice of conscience goes, no, don't do that. You're going to hurt yourself. Or don't walk out in front of that traffic, someone's going to run over you. Or don't go into that part of town, somebody probably shoot you. Or, the voice of conscience is there to warn you. And we see the voice of instinct and conscious and all living entities. Sometimes whole herds of millions of animals know exactly where to go, like whales know where to swim, thousands and thousands of miles. They know where to go mate and have their children, or they know where to go to die. So many things like that. That is also the voice of your conscience or your super soul advising you, please don't do this. I'm instructing you, don't do this. And if you read in the Bhagavad-gītā, you'll see the same thing. Krishna gives these instructions over and over. As a matter of fact, Arjuna was about to make some very serious mistakes, right? Arjuna was looking at things from a materialistic perspective. He was in a state of yoga maya. We're in Mahamaya, but he was in a state of yoga maya. And basically, he was about to make some mistakes, but he accepted this, Krishna as his spiritual master, and therefore he was given instruction on how to overcome his doubt and his fear and his lamentation. And he carried out his duty, which then made him successful and everyone on the battlefield successful. All achieved their liberation by his malady, which he worked through with the help of his spiritual master, Sri Krishna. I hope that answered your question, Jai Krishna. I don't know if it did.
Well, when you said it as a voice of consciousness, yes, that example explained it to me. Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jai Krishna. We want to be in Dominican Republic with you, man. When do we all get to
I
come?
want to be in Tennessee with you.
Well, you're invited, bro. We're going to talk about that later.
Then check your WhatsApp. Hey, real quick, I spoke to Maharaj today. He said
Yeah.
he's only going to be there one more year. He's not going to be in a borough anymore.
Oh, you're talking about Hanuman Preshaka?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we need
Yeah.
to discuss that later. So you
We
and I
will.
will get together on a separate call. But
Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol. Well, listen, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. You know, we're pouring our hearts and soul into this because it's a matter of life and death. I mean, this is serious stuff. Every moment is a gift to you. That's why they call it the present, right? You can't repeat you can't go back in the past. You've already done it. Now you need to do some reformation. And reformation to get rid of those bad karmic reactions in the past are constantly available in sadhana bhakti and with the association of the Vaishnavas through the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, listen to Bhagavad-gītā, etc., and so on. You're taking prasadam. All of these things are there to purify us, to give us association with the Supreme Person, and therefore we become surcharged with spiritual energy, with spiritual inspiration, with happiness. And we're so much overflowing, we can't talk about it enough. Krishna says in Bhagavad-gītā, my devotees relish having conversations about me. We're in love with God. And guess what? He happens to be the most beautiful, wealthy, wise, famous, powerful person. There's nobody equal to nor greater than. Why not, is what I say. And everything you have comes from God and his grace to you. So be grateful. Gratitude is the attitude that we want to manifest in our hearts and souls. Even if negative things, they look negative, come to us, they may have a good purpose. So please keep the open mind, and we'll see you on the next go around, the 3 modes of material nature. I think you're going to love that one because we're talking about ignorance, passion, and goodness, and we can see how it's affecting people and creatures in those different modes. And it'll give us a clearer understanding of how we can identify those modes and extract ourselves from all of this, as Krishna is recommending in the Bhagavad-gītā. All right, anything else?
Yes, I have a question. My name is Premanjali.
Okay, hey, Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Nice class. Thank you so much. My first time on a Zoom call with you giving lecture. My question is like twofold. I actually made a comment on a YouTube video, and I had a person respond back. I was sharing that I'm really a clean person. I really am, and it's just a part of who I am, and I just like things clean. But I'm having problems with these big water bugs, and I call them water bugs, but you know, people in Atlanta that's where I'm at. People in Atlanta call them roaches, but I'm from the north. A roach is very small. When they're big like that, they're water bugs and they're attracted by water. So there's some kind of water, whatever. But I hate them. I can't stand to see them. And she was saying to me, you are creating so much negative karma by killing them. She says you need to like get them and take them outside. And I understand that premise because I've been a practicing devotee for a long time, but they're so fast. You can't get them and take them out. They run so fast, you know? And so my question is, what do I do? I'm clean as I possibly can. And I am just not there with seeing every living entity When you're talking about the 24 elements and they're in different bodies, I'm like, they're bugs. I hate them. What
No.
do I do?
Ramanjali, I appreciate that question because we're all dealing with infestation in the material world. We humans are an infestation also, by the way. You might notice some of the degradation we do to the planet. We're worse than roaches. Roaches actually have a purpose in the great cycle and the wheel. They actually dissolve things back to soil. So if you look at what roaches do, they just take things that are rotted or neglected or old or funky or whatever it might be, and they eat it, pass it out as stool, and that becomes earth. And then the earth grows nutritional things to feed all the other living entities. So everything has its place under heaven. There's no question about it. And roaches are also living entities. And we see with an equal vision, their soul is the same soul that you have. They just happen to be in a karmic spot that's not so attractive. And by the way, Krishna says in Bhagavad-gītā, a little bit of advancement on this path of devotion can protect one from the greatest type of danger. Do you know what the greatest danger is? Falling into the animal or lower species. Because you can live here eternally in these species, living off karma that you made as a human being. Humans create karma. Roaches don't. They're living off their karma. So they've got to go through all these species, and then they come back to the human life and they get another chance to become a devotee. So now that didn't answer your question, but here's the answer to the question. Nonviolence is what Krishna recommended just a moment ago in that chapter we were reading, that devotees become nonviolent, ahimsa. So the Jains, they're busy sweeping the sidewalk so they don't step on a bug and kill it. They still kill bugs. When you light a fire, you kill things. When you drink water, you kill things. When you eat food, you kill things. So everything you do has to be done as a sacrifice. Your life has to become a living sacrifice. Just like if we look at the kings in the Vedic times, they would start a sacrificial fire in their palace and it would stay their whole life, and they would offer oblations into that fire daily. So we have to offer our lives as a sacrifice to Krishna, and we have to honor and respect all other creatures in the world, even if they are insignificant in our minds. They are actually part of this great cycle that we're living in, which is a complete whole. This Upanishad says complete whole, completely perfect. So the idea would be, yes, there's only two things you can do. I'll give you this quickly because we're going over time. The other day, I had an infestation of ants. Okay, it was my fault because originally I had everything clean, but I left something out and they just went for it. They said, man, the snack bar is open and it's filled up with some delicious stuff. So they wore it out. So I took that thing outside and set them out, let them finish eating it. And I have this little handheld vacuum, and it's got a little gauze filter in it. It doesn't hurt them. I just sucked the rest up, took them outside, dumped them outside. Now, after that, I put down something that they hate. They don't like eucalyptus. They don't like, what was the other thing I put down? I'm trying to remember what it was. Well, I can't remember right now, but there's a few substances that you can put out. They won't come around. They don't want anything to do with it. They're looking for food. If they don't find a source of food, they will go away. So that's my recommendation. And but we can talk more. You guys can always call Gayatri Das or email me at gayatridasa@gmail.com. And I'd love to have ongoing dialogue and conversations with each and every one of you. So for now, though.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So for now, though, okay, was there anything else? Because we got to go.
No. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anybody else? Because we're going to go ahead and sign off the call for tonight. And I want to thank you so very much for being with us. We love you. We appreciate you all. And please invite your friends to come to this because all we're doing is talking about the absolute truth. All we're talking about is nectarine subject matter that should satisfy the heart and soul of everyone who comes in contact with the sublime and cosmogonal philosophy of Bhagavad-gītā. So I'm going to leave you with that. All right, Hare Krishna.
Haribo, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
See you next time, okay? Next Monday night. The three
Thank
modes of
you.
nature. Haribo.
Hare Krishna.